just wanna slow dance with you. I know all the other boys are tough and smooth, and I got the blues. I wanna slow dance with you. I wanna slow dance with you. I just wanna slow dance with you. Why don't you take the chance? I've got the moves I'd like to prove. I wanna slow dance with you. I wanna slow dance with you. I just wanna slow dance with you. Why don't you take the chance? I've got the moves I'd like to prove. I wanna slow dance with you.
Welcome back, everybody, to a podcast called Two Girls and a Forbidden Podcast. I am Fire Princess Lily, and I am joined with my friend Alice.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. So there might be a little extra noise in the background. Not sure yet. There's some light house renovations going over where Alice is, so you might hear a circular saw or two in the background. It's actually not too loud. It should be fine. But so before we get into it, Alice, how are you doing? It's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit. I was a bit sick, so I spent some time trying take it easy, recover a bit, and in that time I had plenty of space and opportunity to read up on things that I was slacking off on.
Nice. Very cool. Very neat. I, for myself, have been doing practically nothing. Playing, video games, going to work, recording other podcasts. I actually just did the latest episode of my Rama 1/2 podcast. I actually got to do that in person with the other podcaster because I was visiting them, and that was pretty fun. Which I don't know that we're ever going to be able to do one of these in person together, just because
I don't think that's plausible.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. But should the opportunity present itself, I think I'm open to that. But yeah. So this week we are talking about the hit. I don't know if I can call this a hit. I did get an anime. We're talking about the manga Yuri Bear Storm, which, for all intents and purposes, is really it's a super weird manga.
It is.
And we're just talking about the first volume. Maybe we'll talk about other volumes later. I don't know. I do like this, but there are things about the first volume, because it's been a while since I've read it, that I forgot that I was like, oh, I don't like this. But how did you feel about rereading it? Because I know you've already read it once.
Rereading it sort of confirmed my feeling that this is just a weird series. I was aware that this was a weird series. I've seen the anime, I've read the manga, all volumes, and I was like, yeah, this is weird. And then you reread it after already knowing some of the plot points and stuff, and you're like, yeah, this is still weird.
I think what I really forgot when I went back through and read this is how many things that they kind of wanted to do in the first volume that they later dropped either in the first volume or just later on completely. A good example is Ginkgo, who is one of our main characters. She has this whole setup with the president, so long as you leave, what's her name? Kurar? I don't know how to pronounce her name. So long as you leave her alone, we can do whatever. And it's like, okay, sure, that's been done before. And they dropped that. They dropped it super quick, which I actually appreciate. I do appreciate that. It's just you know, it feels like the author, I suppose, got cold feet for that particular trope, and or maybe they just didn't like it, and that was always the goal to drop it. I'm not sure.
I know what you mean by that. It's like a sort of a common trope even in a lot of straight manga, where there's this playboy and they're like, leave my friend alone and I'll do whatever you want. And then, like, as you said, halfway in, one of the other characters jumps in, kicks him once, and that's the end of it. We never hear anything about it ever again.
Never again, which I do appreciate. I'm sorry, I got a little ahead. For people who actually haven't read this before, Yuri Bear Storm is a manga about two girls. Obviously, it's Yuri. Well, I mean, later on, it's kind of about three girls or more. So, anyway,
the main cast is like a love triangle, and then there's side couple.
And then there's side couples, yeah. There's a love triangle, but it's like a polyamory love triangle, so it works. The main character is Kuria. I'm not even sure if that's how that's pronounced. And she is like, this is another thing they kind of like immediately abandoned, is like she's this lonely girl who is unnoticed by anybody because of, I guess, the way she dresses. I'm not sure how she went unnoticed at all, because she's like actually a cute girl or whatever, and I don't imagine she'd just be, and she's blonde and everybody else has, like, you know, dark hair. I don't think anybody's ignoring this girl, like.
What now I want to hook in on that. What bothers me is that everyone's like, oh no, we don't know who that is, and then when she like lets her hair hang loose and removes her glasses, everyone's like, oh, she's so pretty. But then apparently she's famous in school for being part of the rifle shooting club,
right? So she, oh my goodness, that was another thing, is she's just like famous rifle shooter in the school, but nobody knew who she was until, I don't know, it's dumb. But there's the other character is Ginkgo, and she has a huge crush on Kuria. That's just how I'm pronouncing it. And she knows that Kuria's not being like her true self. She's like hiding. Kuria's other problem is that every night she has a nightmare or a dream about bears coming to eat her, which is kind of where the bear plot comes in, or the the bear title. And Ginkgo saves her every night, so she doesn't know what that means.
Yeah, it's just really, like, talking about it already makes me confused again, because the plot is flimsy. It is really flimsy, because in the first volume it sort of feels like that she really believes she's a bear and that everyone else around her is bears, and then it gets this sort of half supernatural vibe, including the dreams and her being able to sort of read her mind, which is also never really talked upon any further, besides she just happens to be good at reading body language.
Yeah, that's one of those weird things about this particular manga, is like they do all these different things, and it's like they couldn't decide exactly what they wanted to do until like the second volume, and even then it's still like a little all over the place. But it starts out with Korea having all these dreams about bears and thinking that Ginkgo is a bear, and Ginkgo being like, no, I'm not a bear, I'm a girl, blah blah blah. And then it's no, Ginkgo is a bear and everybody else is bears except Korea. Korea is a human, and the only human in a world of bears. And it kind of like flopped back and forth on, is this an actual thing that is true of the world, or is it all in Ginkgo's mind? Because everybody kind of plays along with it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all kinds of people around her that enforce the idea that everyone's a bear, and then Kura shows up and she's like, what's all this about?
Yeah, what's all this bear stuff?
What's all this bear stuff? And then she's like, because she's part of the hunting club and apparently used to hunt. She at some point in the first volume brings up stuff like bear pelts and bear meat.
Right.
Everyone's like, "Oh no, we're allergic to bear," and then that's never
Yeah, that's
talked
never
about.
right. Not only is she a part of the hunting club, like just to like compound on like I guess they wanted to go for a star-crossed lovers thing. I'm not sure, because not only is she a part of a hunting club, her family is apparently famous for hunting and killing bears. Like that is.
There are so many tropes rammed into this manga that it kind of fits the name in the Bear Storm part, because there's so much going on.
There's just so much going on. But overall, as dumb as it is and as confusing as it is, I really love this stupid manga. It's just fun. It's lighthearted and it's fun, even though it's got like all these other like plot points and things that it abandoned. Overall, it's cute and fun. I don't think there's like, and like I said, it's been a while since I've last read it. I think if it's trying to force drama, it doesn't feel like they are forcing drama. Like they introduce Lulu, and oh no, here's a rival. Oh no, now they're all friends and living together. And it's like anytime that like a common trope and a common annoying trope, I would say, could be introduced, they like subvert it immediately, because I don't know if they just chicken out of that trope or if they're also saying like, yes, these tropes are terrible, we could do better.
I kind of feel that it's more that they just sort of forget about it in some cases. Like when we were talking about the student council president trying to make a move, it's like sort of this happens, this is a trope, and then it's over, and we never mention this trope ever again, and then they move on to the next. In fact, before the president shows up, we go with another trope in which Kuraha has a phobia for boys, which we also never really discussed further beyond that exact plot moment.
Right, that's another good point. It happened so fast I basically forgot about it. Yeah, she's afraid of boys, and it's like, oh, that's, relatable, and then gone. It's just gone. Like, maybe they do forget. I'm not sure. Or maybe they just didn't know what they wanted to do. And I really feel like the real problem of this manga, if you ask me, even though we're not talking about later volumes, is that there's only 3 volumes, because it really feels like the third volume, they really had down what they wanted. They're like, okay, now we know what we're doing. We're gonna go forward on this, and then it's over. It's done.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It had to be, all the loose ends had to be tied up by volume 3, and in a sense, I feel that it closed pretty good, except there are still major plot holes. There are major
plot holes, and it ends sort of on a cliffhanger a little bit. Like, it ends on a mystery, and that annoys me. Like, I know we're not talking about later volumes, but if I have to gripe about this, that would be like my biggest gripe, is that I just wish there was an actual like ending, and not a ending that is a mystery.
Yeah, that's fair. I can relate to that.
But overall though, if I were to grade this personally for me, this is like an A plus manga, just because of how cute and fun it is, and how much I do enjoy it, and all the bear designs are similar, but they're super cute. They are adorable, and and so I do love this. But if I were being professional about this is like, with just how all over the place it is, and how many tropes they bring up and then subsequently abandon, like within the next page, I would say like that makes it like a D or a C minus kind of manga.
For me, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10, because it's random. if you don't like random, then this isn't really a manga for you.
Oh no, not at all.
There's romance in it, sure. It has a bit of that, well, sort of has that girly girl ex-tomboyish type, and then they subvert that trope as well. So it's sort of all over the place, and if you don't like that, then yeah, this isn't the manga for you. Then I'd recommend some of the mangaka's other works, which are surprising. The mangaka focuses on stuff like high school girl romance and office lady romance. That's mostly what they do.
Right.
And now that I bring this up anyways, the art style is very similar for everything that the mangaka makes. Everyone looks a bit chubby, a bit pudgy, a bit round in the face, and especially the faces.
Oh, but I like that.
It's not bad, but it's more noticeable than with the mangaka of Hana and Hina-chan.
Right, where
all the characters really have that same chubby face feeling, and that goes on in all of the mangas they make. Like, all characters have the same. If it weren't for the hairstyles, you might accidentally think that the characters flopped over from one verse into the other.
That reminds me of a webcomic called Short Pack. Short Pack was like, this is like totally kind of off base. Short Pack was like a comic about like nerd stuff, and they had like a Batman comic where Batman was like looking at a monitor with Oracle, who used to be Batgirl, and it's Tim Bruce Batman. So they're looking at it, and Oracle's like, oh my god, they all look the same, because they're like trying to find like the specific ones. Like, they look the same, and Batman's like, no they don't, check the hairstyle. Sorry, that was totally just a random plot point, but
somewhat relevant.
Yeah, but okay, so let's decide this now on air. What are we gonna read next for next show? You did give a lot of good suggestions. I did like the suggestion of the one that's what is all of humanity is Yuri. Oh wait, all of humanity is Yuri's except me. I think I liked that plot a lot, but I don't know if you're up to that one or.
Yeah, sure, I'm fine with it.
All right, cool. Then that is what we're going to be reading next week. We're going to talk about the first volume of All of Humanity is Yuri Except Me. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
That is it. I said it right. So I don't know if Alice got any social media in between now and when we last recorded. Nope. So you can always find me on Twitter at DAT Fire Princess, and on my YouTube show, Fire Princess Reviews, where I review tons of comics and cartoons, sometimes very angrily because I just get into a mood. My other podcast, One Half Podcast, the internet's one and only Ranma Rewatch podcast. You'd think there'd be more. There aren't. And then Living That X Life, where I compare being a mutant to being queer. I'm just busy. I'm doing all the things.
Very much so.
But as with every podcast, we have oh, wait, I almost did it again. I did want to explain why this podcast is called Two Girls at a Forbidden Podcast, and it's super easy, and I don't know why I never got around to it. It's just because girl love, or at least Yuri manga, used to be called forbidden romance. Like, that was the trope. So that's why the name. I don't know why I never explained that at all. But yeah. So definitely look forward to our next episode. Read the first volume of that if you want to have like a more inside view before we talk about it. And until next time, be good. Yeah. And that is... Okay, I'm going to hit the closing song. Now that I've... Oh, and I closed where the closing song was. I'm just a genius today. Alright, here we go. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.